the channel. Welcome back to a very interesting video. This is a 1995 Vauxhall Cavalier, a car that used to flood British roads back in the day, you know, early to late 90s. These were absolutely everywhere. This Mark III version was bought recently. It is a two-owner 64,000 mile example. There is absolutely none for sale. I had a little nose, you know, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, all those various search engines that I try and look for old cars like this, and there is absolutely none of these for sale, especially in this fantastic condition. So thank you so much to the owner for letting me take this out. Let's take it to the seaside and reminisce about days gone by in a Vauxhall Cavalier. So yes, a 1995 Vauxhall Cavalier. This car is a relatively mid-trim level. It is an LS with a 2-litre 16-valve XEV engine, which, funnily enough, is pretty much similar, you know, turbos and compression rates, similar to a VXR engine. So this was the first real entry into that style of engine. This was the first iteration basically of this engine, and then it followed on to actually become a GSI engine in later models, which is interesting because this engine is mated to an automatic gearbox. No one in the 90s was buying automatics, were they? So to find a two-owner 60,000 mile Cavalier for sale with an automatic gearbox is unheard of. In fact, this car has pretty much full extensive service history, books. It's even got a set of keys from when it was brand new that have never been used. Never ever been used. It's actually it was pretty much a one owner up until the point where the older gentleman couldn't drive anymore, so it was given to his son, put in his name, and that's where the two owners. So it is a family car. It was, you know, in the family for most of its life, which is so cool. This car has probably seen so many trips out, you know, to the seaside, various places along, you know, the English coast, say, and today, thankfully, we're just out enjoying it today, which is so nice. And as you can see, we've come down the seaside. I just feel like this is where this car should be, because this is the ultimate 90s, I would say, throwback British seaside car in a sense for families, in the 3 marks that they actually did across the years, all the way from late 70s to pretty much late 90s. But my real conversation I want to have with you guys as we enter a bit more of the beautiful seaside at the Isle of Wight is this a modern classic? Is this becoming sought after? Now, I've already said, try to find one of these for sale. A relatively good one, you know, a good, nice, low mileage, good owner car. A car that would have been everywhere at one point. It would have been as common as they get. This was the common working man's car at the time. So they were everywhere. Now, because much like other cars from previous generations, Mark I Escorts at one point were basically a throwaway car. Everybody had one. So was the Vauxhall Cavalier. And it's got to the point where I think we're on a teeter over to this car actually becoming a proper modern classic. In a sense, there isn't any. There's fantastic stories and people that used to have these, family that used to have these, you know, reminding themselves of days gone by when they used to cruise past the seaside, go and get an ice cream, family trips away, all that sort of stuff in these cars. Now that they have become not necessarily sought after, but they're just not around anymore, it's become quite of an acquired taste in a sense, because there is people that want these cars. The GSIs, yes, they're always going to be worth money. They're always going to be the desirable one to have. But models like this with good history, good owners, lovely colour, no rust, well, next to no rust, because the Mark 1s and the Mark 2s were pretty bad for rust. This generation, not that bad, but I mean, everything rusts from the 90s, let's be quite honest. It's just nice to be out in it, and in fact, it's quiet, it's refined, it's nice, it's comfortable, the seats are comfortable, the steering is just as you expect it to be. This is an airbag model, so there is a airbag in front of us. It is a lovely bit of history. This is what it is. It is just so nice to see a well-presented Cavalier these days. Not once would you ever have thought, say in the late 2000s, say 2005 to 2010, would I be sat in a Cavalier explaining to the internet that I think it's a modern classic. It is going to be a modern classic. If not, it is already a modern classic because of its cool factor. There is a sense of cool in one of these, in my opinion. It's a sense of times gone by where you're not really going to get cool cars like this anymore. You just don't get them. I feel like if you're not necessarily buying one now, but I feel like if you're not hunting one, or at least thinking, oh, it might be time to, you know, jump on the GSI bandwagon, say, or at least you come across one of these and it's for sale and it's not too much money and it's actually all right, it might be a good, I'm not going to say investment, but it would probably be a good investment because there isn't any. There isn't any. They don't exist anymore. And that's crazy to say, considering these cars are, you know, they were everywhere at one point. They really were. Every single person seemed to have had one of these at one point. In fact, to the point where the British roads were completely flooded with these at one point. Between the 3 generations of Cavaliers, there was 1.8 million sold. 1.8 million of this variant of car were sold. Imagine that. And now I'm sat on the internet, sat in a lovely low mileage, good owner car, explaining that this is actually a shout. You should buy one. If you had one of these when you were younger, like the owner of this car had one when he was 17. He said he was forced to drive it because it was part of you know, his job at the time. But he remembers his youth sort of being behind the wheel of a Cavalier. That's why when he saw it, he's like, I've got to have that. That is the coolest thing. And I appreciate that. Remember, these were the working man car. These were everywhere at one point. Now, nowhere to be seen. So, how does it drive from that 2-litre 140 horsepower engine? In fact, we've got an S mode down here, so we'll do that. Apparently, that holds the gear a little bit more, so you'll get round to red line, which is quite nice. So, here we go. 140 horsepower, here we go. In the mid-90s Cavalier. Does it get any better than that? That is... Oi, that's actually alright. I'm genuinely surprised that it's not fast, like Rip Red off fast, but it's so cool. Mate, it's so cool. There is nothing like 90s, 80s, 90s cars. It just feels so right, this car. Nothing like the new stuff. Like, keep your new stuff, mate, I tell you. Look, so that crane. Absolutely huge. Yeah, keep your new stuff, mate. I'd quite happily drive this all day long. In fact, the owner of this car, after picking it up, has done 3,000 miles in it. He said he's thoroughly enjoying it. He's enjoying every moment of it. In fact, he drives it as much as he can because that's what its intended purpose was. These cars were, you know, built to drive, to run into the ground in a sense, with your families in the back. And that's exactly what the owner is doing. He's, you know, keeping it alive, keeping it nice. But he's also driving it, which I really appreciate. And I appreciate the fact that I'm able to actually drive it today and maybe explain to some people that this is a modern classic. Maybe, you know, see the good in what was, you know, a mediocre, normal car at the time. I don't think it is anymore. In fact, if I was driving the other way and I saw this, I'd go, wow, there's a really nice Cavalier there. And today we're driving it. It's so cool. I love stuff like this. But if you did like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you do have a cool car like this, please let me know. If you want me to shoot it for the channel, I'd absolutely love to. I love cars like this. They're so, so cool. And what a day out to be in the Cavalier. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.